I'm a racing fan. I will watch pigs race. That's atrocious. That is disgusting. I never want to see that again. I'm fed up, and you should probably turn this off.
Flashback.
The Daytona 500 is in the books. What a great way to start 2021. Michael McDowell, congratulations. Next week, the Daytona Road Course. That's about as energetic as you're going to hear me talk about that. I hate this track. I've seen 2 races on it, and they were both garbage. Hopefully next week is better, but I can't promise anything. Well, sometimes it's good to be wrong. As I have documented on this show probably a number of times, I am not a fan of the Daytona Road Course. Now, I don't know why that is, I'll be honest. I don't know if it is the track layout. I don't know if maybe the racing product just isn't that good because the drivers haven't had much practice, and so they're being a little too careful. But what I saw from the first 2 Cup races at the Daytona Road Course, so that would be last year in, July or August, whenever it was, and this year's Busch Clash, both of those races, in my opinion, were very boring. So, that being said, I really wasn't looking forward to today. I'll be honest. It is NASCAR. I love it. Of course, I was going to watch it. But I wasn't expecting to be on the edge of my seat, biting my nails, yelling at the TV, and that's exactly what we got today. Listen, when NASCAR decided they were going to add more road courses to the schedule, this is the product that they were hoping for. Today literally had everything that you could hope for. You had Chase Elliott go out there and was dominating the race. I mean, there was times where this dude had a 5 or 6 second lead over the field. I fully expected to be covering a Chase Elliott victory on this show today. He dominated. He was so good. That kid, I don't know how, he is so good on the road courses. I don't know if he just took a bunch of notes from Jeff Gordon. His dad, Bill Elliott, was a pretty good road course racer also, but Chase Elliott just has it figured out. He is so good when it comes to these road courses. So I fully expected to be talking about a Chase Elliott victory. Then, all the chaos of crashes, of just regular spinouts that don't get called as a caution, that is. Drivers getting into one another. Plenty of that. I don't think there was a clean car left on the racetrack by the time this race ended. Honestly, last week's Daytona 500 and this week's Daytona Road Course, the field looked about the same. So many tore-up race cars. I think the only clean car I saw during today's race was Kevin Harvick, and I think he got a top 10, but he was just kind of there today. Very quiet day, and he had the cleanest car out there. But ladies and gentlemen, the big story, obviously, is always whoever wins. But today, Christopher Bell, somebody that I have been very high on. You can go back last year and watch some of those pit stops where I talk about how last year was the greatest rookie class in NASCAR history. A big piece of that is Christopher Bell, who I think is a future champion in this sport, and he got his very first NASCAR Cup Series win today at the Daytona Road Course. Now, this wasn't a fluke or anything like that. This kid was running top 5 all day. I sat here and talked about how dominant Chase Elliott was. Christopher Bell ran in the top 5 all day, and he actually impressed me a ton. I did not see that coming from him, I'll be honest. You knew you were going to have to deal with Chase Elliott, Martin Truex, Denny Hamlin, guys like that. But Christopher Bell came out, I think he started 12th, went straight to the front, and just stayed in the top 5 all day. And then when it came down to some strategy at the end with half the field pitting and some cars not pitting, it came down to strategy, and Christopher Bell comes up, gets around Joey Logano with 2 to go, and gets his very first career win in the Cup Series. Listen, I told you guys this playoff field is going to get weird. We knew that when Michael McDowell won the Daytona 500. Now, this isn't as big of a long shot. I do think Christopher Bell was probably going to make the playoffs this year, but he was a fringe guy for me. That was a guy that could win a race, but if not, he was going to be about 13th or 14th in points. He was going to have to, it was going to come down to the wire for him, and he was going to have to perform well at Daytona to end the season, and end the regular season, and get into the playoffs. Now he doesn't have to worry about it. Unless we get 17 different winners and he's 17th in points, but don't think that's going to happen. Anyway, I told y'all this playoff field was going to get weird. And ladies and gentlemen, to start this season, we have had 2 races, 2 winners who got their first career win. Wow. What a way to kick off what Fox Sports said could be the best season ever. Listen, that's high. That is very wishful thinking, probably, to be like, hey, look, this is the best season ever. You should watch. It does sound a little desperate, like you're just trying anything to get the views. But from what we have seen to start this year, with the product on the racetrack in both of these races, surprise winners. I don't know that Christopher Bell's a surprise winner, but, he was still a long shot coming in. Surprise winners, great product, entertaining. People want to see tore-up race cars. As much of a race fan as you are, you still want to see some cars get tore up. Like, come on, that's just part of it. You can love the X's and the O's of football, but at some point you want to see someone get hit hard, or you want to see a crazy catch, or you want to see something else besides just the X's and the O's that were drawn up on the play sheet. So obviously the big story today was Christopher Bell getting his first career win, and rightfully so. This is a guy that he's not done. He is going to be in victory lane a lot. You might as well get used to seeing Christopher Bell. He is going to be the face of Joe Gibbs Racing and of Toyota for the foreseeable future. Now, Denny's not going anywhere. Kyle Busch and Martin Truex, they're not going anywhere. Those are still the top dogs. But if you're looking for a guy to put stock in for the next 10 to 12 years, Christopher Bell is that guy. Obviously, Christopher Bell is the big story. He gets the headlines. But there were a couple other guys that got some top 10s, and I want to talk about them. Last week's Daytona 500 champion, Michael McDowell, started today second, and on the very first lap, had problems when he had a flat tire and overshot turn 1. Went to the back, looked like it was going to be a bad day, like, oh, all right, Michael McDowell came back down to earth. And the team just persevered. They kept fighting and fighting and fighting, and all of a sudden, there's like 10 laps to go, and wait a minute, Michael McDowell's in the top 10 right now. Michael McDowell bringing it home with a top 10 finish today. Good for him, good for that team, good for the points situation too. We're not going to have to worry about Michael McDowell missing the playoffs based on points, I wouldn't think. But look, the Daytona 500, even though it is our Super Bowl, it is our marquee event, it's not necessarily indicative of talent or a good race team. We've had some flukes, and it is very important for Michael McDowell and his team to go out there and keep producing and prove that they are not Derek Cope, Ward Burton, Trevor Bayne, some of those. They need to be different. They need to run well at a bunch of different racetracks. We know Michael McDowell's a good road racer. He proved it today, coming from the back after early trouble and getting a top 10 finish. Now, speaking of people who are good on road courses, A.J. Allmendinger was in this race in an entry for Colleague Racing in the number 16, and he finished with a top 10 today. Now, we know A.J. Allmendinger can get around a road course. That dude is one of the best, if he's not the best. That dude is very, very good. And it got me thinking about something. So I've seen the rumors about Colleague Racing maybe wanting to move up to the Cup Series one day. They have 3 full-time rides in the Busch Series. Maybe they could, consolidate that down to 1 and use that money to go Cup racing. And I want to see that, honestly. I think it's great if we can get new owners in NASCAR, and especially the Cup Series. It would be nice to see Kaulig Racing. Now, most people probably just assume that they'll put Justin Haley in the car. He's been with them in the Busch Series, ran very well, won some races, things like that. But with NASCAR and this new schedule, and them having 7 road courses on the schedule this year, if that's going to be the trend moving forward to where we're going to have 6, 7, maybe even 8 road courses every single year, why wouldn't Kaulig Racing put A.J. Allmendinger in a full-time Cup Series ride? That is a guy that is one of the best on road courses, and now you would have 7, maybe 8 chances to win a race and get into the playoffs. That would be huge for your team. So that's just something that kind of crossed my mind today. I don't know that it's in the works or anything like that, but if Kaulig Racing wants to go Cup racing, I think you put A.J. Allmendinger in that car and just go for it on the road courses. Similar to what Petty did with Marcus Ambrose. Marcus Ambrose was a great road course racer. Everywhere else, but he was very good on the road courses. The problem was in those days, there was only 2 road course races a year. That was it. Now there's 7. This would be a big opportunity for A.J. Allmendinger and for Kaulig Racing, and I could see it happen here in the next couple years, honestly. Now, on the opposite end of the spectrum, when guys have good days, that means some guys are going to have bad days. And I planned on talking about Brad Keselowski because this guy spun out like 5 or 6 times. This guy was absolutely all over the place today. He got into some people. He got hit. He spun out. He missed every turn, I think. He locked up the brakes every single time Fox showed him on TV today. I don't know what the deal is with Penske and their brakes and the setup, whatever. Oh my gosh, that was very entertaining to watch Brad Keselowski try to get around that course. But he ended up with a top 10 finish, so we can't really pile on to him. 2021, as good as it's been to start, it has not been so good for a couple drivers that I kind of have high hopes for. One is Matt Debenedetto. Here's a guy that does not know where he is going to be racing next year. We know he's going to finish this year out for the Wood Brothers, but then Austin Cindric is going to be taking over that ride next year. Matt Debenedetto needs to be out here auditioning for a ride, and man, that boy just has terrible luck. He blows a tire today and rips the entire right rear off of the car after getting involved in the big one in lap 14 last week. This guy, I do think this team will get it together. They will hit their stride, and I think he is going to win a race this year. I really do. I think they're ready. I think he's going to be the guy that gets that 100th win for the Wood Brothers, but man, they are off to a rough start. Also, the guy that I picked to win the championship this year, Ryan Blaney, just not competitive at all today. This was a guy that was starting in the back, and I figured he was going to be charging up through the field at the start of the race. I mean, absolutely, when you drop the green flag, here he comes. And that just wasn't the case. He never, I don't know if he ever cracked the top 20, honestly. I don't think I heard his name one time on the telecast. He is having an awful start to the season. I'm not going to overreact. It's only 2 races. He's still my champion. But that team needs to wake up. They came out of the box firing on all cylinders last year, but then they fell apart in the playoffs. So maybe we're going to get the opposite. They fall apart at the beginning of the season, then they hit their stride, go deep into the playoffs, and win a championship. Who knows? Of course, this weekend was a triple header. You had the truck race on Friday night. That was absolute chaos. I lost count. I don't even know how many overtimes they did. But shout out to Ben Rhodes for winning. He has opened the season with 2 straight wins in the truck series. Can't really do any better than that, right? And then the Busch race on Saturday. Ty Gibbs, the grandson of Joe Gibbs, in his very first Busch Series start, goes out there and wins. That is very impressive. That deserves a ton of respect, ton of credit. Good for him. I talked about how Christopher Bell might be the face of Toyota and Joe Gibbs Racing going forward. He might be competing with Ty Gibbs for that nod. Because you come out of the box and you win in the very first time you sit in that race car. Congratulations to him. That was wild. So next week, we are at the Homestead Miami Speedway, 1.5 miles, our first 1.5 miles of the season. I can't wait, honestly. The Daytona 500 has all the hype, and you love that race, that day. It's just everything into one. And then we had the road course that I did not think was going to be good, and it surprised me. It was very good today. Now we're getting into the regular swing. We're going to have 1.5 miles, a few short tracks in there. We're going to get back into the regular swing. My prediction for next week, already, early prediction, 7 days away, 7 days early for you. Kyle Larson is going to be very, very tough to beat at Homestead. Go back and watch Homestead races from every year of the last 6 years. Obviously not last year, but the last 5 out of the last 6 years. Go back and watch Homestead races. Kyle Larson usually factors into the decision. I think he's going to be very tough to beat next week at Homestead, and I can't wait for it. This NASCAR season is just heating up. Bro, this is going to be a good one.